Welcome to Dodgers Daily, the pregame show for Game 3 of the NLDS. It is win or go home. Austin, super excited about tonight, a little bit nervous. You know, I don't know kind of how to feel about this. All the rookies have been squeezed out of the lineup. The Dodgers, man, they are playing for their lives. Brandon Pfaadt on the mound for Arizona, Game 3, Lance Lynn for the Dodgers.
Yeah, no, tonight is it's win or go home tonight, and Dodgers didn't expect to be kind of in this position. They lost 2 straight in LA, and now they have a chance to respond. It is a 5-game series, meaning you only have to win 3 in a row, but the Dodgers have not put themselves in a good position. Tonight is an opportunity to flip the switch, though. So if you win tonight, you add a little bit of hope going forward in the series. Tonight is, their season is on the line tonight.
No doubt. What'd you think about the lineup?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a shakeup. They decided to go with some more veteran presence. Obviously, James Outman is not in the lineup. They flip-flop JD Martinez and Will Smith because JD Martinez has had a little bit of success in this series. He had the home run in Game 2. I'm sure they feel like he's swinging the bat a little bit well and want to change it up a little bit more, get him more at bats. I don't mind that move at all. Switching out James Outman, I think he's still going to have a role at some point during the game tonight. I think you're going to see them be switching back and forth. He probably will be in later of the game, whether that's just defense or he might get an at-bat or 2 later in the game. It's going to be all hands on deck, and my guess is they were going to use Kike at some point. They needed to make some sort of change to jumpstart this offense. That's the way they wanted to get going right away.
Yep. Good evening, Roy. Thank you for joining again. Good evening, Mike. Hey, I got your message just a couple of minutes ago on Twitter. Super excited about bringing you on as hey, whatever you would like to contribute as far as writing articles, that would be fantastic. And so hope to have a good crowd tonight. Michael is joining us again. Don't like Hayward being there. He hasn't given them anything. Yeah, I would agree with that, but I think you could probably say that also too about, several other people. To be honest with you, and you know how much we love James Outman. He hasn't given you a whole lot of anything. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts haven't given you a whole lot of anything. So David Peralta, Max Muncy got the fist job the other night as far as the base hit. So, yeah, I think they like Jason Heyward. I think they like his, this was a lineup to where when they sat it down, they went, hey, you know what? We're going to go out in what we believe in. We believe in veterans. Hey, we're going to always put veterans in over rookies. Lance Lynn gets to start over Ryan Pepio. James Outman's not in the lineup. Bobby Miller's gone the 1 2/3 innings, and then you had pretty much cleanup work for Emmett Sheehan and Michael Grove after the game, after Dave pretty much had already said Game 1 was out of hand. So really, they haven't, other than the Bobby Miller start that was 1 2/3 innings, James Outman obviously got a couple of other starts. The rookies haven't been in positions necessarily, or at least they're not going to be tonight, to make an early impact in this game. So kind of going back to your root, I think when they put this lineup together, they did that intentionally. So, hey, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out the way that we believe in, which is with a veteran lineup.
Yeah, I think that played a huge role, having that initial veteran leadership early. I also think with having Jason Heyward, one, you pointed out that a lot of guys in this lineup, especially in the outfield, have been struggling. I think the guy that you could potentially have replaced him with was a guy like a Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
However, if you wanted to utilize a right-handed bat off the bench in a late game scenario, I think Chris Taylor likely is that guy. If you put Jason Heyward on the bench in replacement of Chris Taylor, then you have James Outman, you have Colton Wong, and Jason Heyward on the bench, 3 different lefties. I think putting Jason Heyward, at least for the initial part, gives you that option for when Arizona might go to a left-hander out of the pen to be able to use a Chris Taylor. I think that's the.
I think it was mapped out in that much detail. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that at least would be my inclination, because you don't want to have all left-handed hitters on the bench and then not have anybody to replace one of those guys with if you're in a big situation late in the game against a lefty. That would at least be what I would think is the rationale behind it, plus some of the leadership and defensive ability that Jason Heyward has.
Yeah, I know. I've had a couple different people message me and comment. Actually, I've had probably 5 or 6 comment on the fact that some of the veteran leaders in losing seems like that they've been somewhat disinterested. Maybe standing on a second base or standing on base and cracking up with the other team. And that drives me insane. I'll say this. Okay, I've been in coaching for a long, long time. 20 years ago, okay, man, you didn't talk to the other team. You didn't converse with the other team. You were obviously very sportsmanship with them. You shook their hand. You said, great job. And you were rivals with them. In the day and age with TikTok and Snapchat and all of the mobile accessibility, and then also all the movement, these guys are in such constant communication with each other. Like in a football game nowadays, 20, 25 years ago, you'd have one team go to the locker room that lost. You'd have the other team, they would stay around and enjoy the victory. Nowadays, after even college football games, high stakes games, both teams will get together and they're laughing and cutting up, and you can't tell who won and who lost. So I've come to learn in the coaching industry. I can't stand it. I don't endorse it, but I can't change it. So I did have to embrace it, right? There's a difference between endorsing and embracing. I've come to embrace the fact that this generation is just different. When the game's over, they flip a switch. It's not to say that they're not competitive, but it's not that venom and vile that we used to compete with in the past, in the sense that, they just can't stand the person that they're going up against. So that is a generational deal that happens in every single sport. It drives me insane, but I will say I have learned to find out that it doesn't mean that they're not engaged in the game. It doesn't mean that they're not being as competitive or locked in as they possibly could be at that moment. It's just how this generation interacts with each other. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys had a lot of interactions and have a lot of respect for a lot of the players on the other side. So you kind of have this mutual respect. I also think with that, man, the Dodgers have gone down big early in these games. It's not like it's been really competitive and then all of a sudden they lose the lead and like, oh, well, that's no big deal. It's one of those things where you got punched in the face early. And so it's been a tough blow for a lot of these Dodgers to take. And you haven't been fighting a whole lot in a lot of these games. You've been a little bit more behind, especially in game one. With a lot of the players, I know that a lot of these players are competing. They are competitive. They're not giving up in these series. It's just frustrating that they've gone down early. So I think in this game, if they're able to keep in this game and not go down 3 runs or more early in the game, I think that's when we're going to see a little bit more of that competitive spirit, or at least I hope that's what I see from the Dodgers. But I don't think there's a hatred for the other team like in the past, like Red Sox, Yankees, some Dodgers, Giants rivalries. I think a lot of that, I think they still have a lot of respect, even if they're going up against the other team. Yeah,
and another thing too, man, I mean, you can say what you want, but when you're running to the bank with $10 million, it's hard to be in a bad mood for that long. I'm just telling you, it just is. I mean, these guys want to win, don't get me wrong, but that absolutely helps in the situation as well. Okay, so let's dive into this game. Let's start with the Dodgers. Lance Lynn, hey, it's a roll of the dice, but who knows? I've been wrong, I think, at every single turn as far as, what was my predictions as far as what was going to happen in the games themselves. I think we've had a pretty good bead in terms of try to be too fine. Okay, I think we disconnected right there with, I think I'm having internet issues tonight, but we'll see here in a minute. Okay, but he's got to figure out a way to try to not be too fine while at the same time not being fat and giving up home runs.
Yeah, no, those are going to be 2 huge things. With Lance Lynn, I don't believe he has faced Arizona either in Chicago or when he's been on the Dodgers. So that's a little bit of a positive. One other positive is if you look at just his last 4 starts, you look at where he is coming into this, he hasn't given up more than 3 runs in any of those outings, each one of those with just 1 home run. So,
Yeah.
and he's been able to provide a little bit of length, which in this game, I don't think they're looking necessarily for length. I think length would be a positive. Right now, they need efficiency, especially if their offense isn't to the level where it has been in the regular season. If their offense is at a similar level, they're going to need efficiency. They're going to have some sort of quick hook like they did with Bobby Miller in game 2. I don't think they have any sort of choice about that tonight.
Yeah, Roy, I totally agree with you. Roy says Mookie and Freddie better set the table and lead the way tonight. There's no doubt about that. This Dodgers team, I think, over-relies on those two guys. They performed all year long at every single turn. They need to start doing it again here in the playoffs. Otherwise, I don't think the Dodgers can win 3 in a row. If they don't do that, I said this in our show, I think, yesterday. When you're trying to come back from a big deficit like this, imagine a football game. Okay, so, or a baseball game even, just an individual baseball game. Let's say you're coming back from 7 or 8 runs. Well, one of the innings needs to be an inning that the other team just kind of handed to you, walked a couple guys, and then you hit a home run. Like in a football game, let's say you're coming back from a 3-score lead. Okay, so one of your touchdowns needs to be like a long pass or a long run, something that didn't labor you that much. So for the Dodgers to win 3 in a row, I really think that at least one of these victories needs to be a situation to where they get hot, the Diamondbacks aren't, and it's low stress. Let's hope all 3 of them are that way, but I do think at least one of those games needs to be like that. That way, you can be your all high leverage in your other 3 matchups. I don't think the Dodgers would win 3 high leverage games in a row, although not impossible. I think that the odds would go against them in that type of scenario.
Yeah, that would be extremely tough, especially because you'd be over-relying on a lot of guys in the bullpen. You don't have as much rest in between these games. I think you're totally right with that. I think luckily for Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, they won't be coming up tonight and hopefully tomorrow with facing some sort of deficit immediately. Mm-hmm. They will be the ones to make a statement early. Arizona made that statement in Los Angeles. It is time for Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman to step up and make a statement because they have the talent to do so. It's hopefully we'll be able to see that tonight.
Yeah, so a couple more comments we have here. Good evening, Craig. Thank you for joining. Roy says the kind of money these players make takes away some of their hunger. I can tell you that I think that's probably a fact, because seeing as much minor league baseball as we do, they make such little money at the minor league level, especially the guys that weren't the high draft picks. If you didn't get a signing bonus at the minor league level, you're not making very much money at all. I mean, you're talking like maybe a couple $1,000s a month, and that's only while you're playing. So we see the guys, Austin, that's what's so fun about it, that are literally doing it with a dream in hand. Their dream is to make the major leagues. They're doing it because they love the grind. They love the process of baseball. They love their teammates. They love being a dugout. They love all that stuff. So when you get to the major league level and you've signed that $100 million contract, it's only human. Some of that goes out, and because, that dream you've had and that, I'm just telling you, see the look in these guys' eyes, the drive they have, you see it at the high A level a lot, Austin. The drive and the ambition they have in their eyes to reach their goal, it's incredible to look at. And it's almost like once you reach that goal, you're like you're striving to do something, and then you finally get it, and then you're like, okay, now what? What do I do next? So you do definitely see a lot of that. So Mike says, I can tell you the fans see it at the game and are commenting on it. We have got our asses kicked the first 2 games. Be friendly after and play hard. Yep. Yeah. So, it's one of those deals that the fans definitely, of course, anytime that you're getting beat like that and you have a fan base like the Dodgers that expect to win every game, there's stuff like that sticks out.
Yeah, no, and you're getting a contract not just to put up numbers, but to ultimately be a part to help the team win. You're playing on a team. You're not playing for everybody. You're playing on an individual team. There needs to be that additional drive, which I know that they have. It's just something that, with the frustrations that we've seen the past, particularly this postseason and the previous postseason, with the star power that they've had, it's been extremely disappointing to watch them not be able to perform to the level that they had all season. That's been really frustrating.
Yep, no doubt. Roy says our team will come out swinging tonight. Book it. I would agree with you, Roy. Of course, you probably want me to predict something opposite because it seems like everything I've predicted so far as game action, baseball, especially postseason, is so unpredictable. So hard to tell how it's going to go. So Roy, talking about the one of the game needs to be a little bit less high leverage. You need to win one game somewhat comfortably, just because the odds of winning 3 just high leverage games in a row are so low. So Roy would say, hey, win tonight's game in a high leverage situation. Then the blowout comes tomorrow, your last game in Arizona. Then send that thing back to LA. That'd be a pretty good path, wouldn't it?
Oh, I would take that. I think everybody in LA would take that right now, because that would mean that would get to a game 5. No, that is exactly kind of what I was thinking as well. It would be tonight to kind of get a rest night, but I think winning big tomorrow, assuming that we get to tomorrow, I think that would be ideal. I think that would give additional rest to a lot of the high leverage arms in the bullpen before you go back to LA, hopefully this weekend.
Any chance we see Pepio tonight? Doesn't look like it, does it?
We'll have to see. I have no idea what the Dodgers game plan is going to be. They're going to be probably going to use a lot of the guys that they used in game 2. They're going to try to get.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so that would be, it would be a little bit of a surprise if they utilized him. They might be saving him a little bit more in game 4, but they're going to pull all the strings. They know that they have to win tonight, and they're going to treat it as such.
I think the only way we see Pepio is if it's bad news and Lance Lynn kind of pulls a Clayton Kershaw, can't get out of the first inning, maybe even early in the second inning, and you feel like you need a bulk inning guy, and that guy would be Pepio. I think that's probably the only way you see him. I think if Lynn goes 4 to 5 innings, you go to your A-team relievers, and hey, you throw the best out there that you have available, and then you see what you got with Ryan Pepio going from there. So, hey, just from a personal perspective, the way that Ryan Pepio has, if he doesn't get to see action, hey, you always got to do what's best for the team, no doubt about that. And if the organization thinks that not pitching Ryan Pepio is what's best for the Dodgers, then, hey, that's the choice that they make, and they know their players better than anybody. But from a personal perspective, just knowing how hard he's worked to get back off the IL, how awesome he has pitched since he's been off the IL, to not get to see him get this experience in a situation to where the Dodgers aren't winning. So if you lose in the playoffs and the only experience you get is James Outman going 0 for 6 in 2 games, then you're replacing him in the 3rd game, and then Bobby Miller going an inning and 2/3 and giving up 3 runs, and then Emmett Sheehan and Michael Grove only getting mop-up duty, really in innings that Dave Roberts went on the air and said, hey, we're just trying to get this game over with. If that's the only experience you get your rookies in a playoff scenario and the Dodgers lose tonight, that is a lose-lose for the Dodgers, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, because that would mean that they didn't get a lot of that playoff experience. You didn't get to see how Ryan Pepio would be able to perform under the lights. Obviously, the Dodgers still believe that they can win this series, and they want to roll with the arms that they think can get them to win this series. But Ryan Pepio has pitched so incredibly well down the stretch. He has proven a lot, and I'm sure the Dodgers have heard that. They have heard the statements that he's made, and they've seen how good he's been. But a lot of their tendencies, especially when you are on the brink of elimination, you don't necessarily know how these rookies are going to respond. And so I think they are going to rely on the veterans because they want to try to win this series. They want to rely on some of that veteran presence.
I got news for you, though. In the playoffs, you don't know how veterans are going to respond either. I think Clayton Kershaw is a perfect case scenario of that. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, all of those guys, I think they're a perfect case scenario that in the playoffs, you don't know how anybody's going to respond.
That is absolutely true. And that makes it really tough. That makes it really tough. And if he's not able to get any experience tonight, let's say that he doesn't pitch at all and things don't go well for the Dodgers, that's going to be a really disappointing because you don't know how he's going to respond. You don't have an opportunity for him to learn, assuming that he's going to be a part of this rotation moving forward.
Yep.
So that would be a real disappointment.
What I don't want is the Dodgers to be in the situation next year to where we're saying the same thing about the playoffs this time next year as we are this year. Well, they don't have playoff experience. Well, they don't know what it's like in the play. Well, yeah, they don't know what it's like because you didn't put them in. You know, you didn't throw them last year in a year to where, hey, it was all about the rookies saving the bacon in the regular season. So because you didn't do that, now we're still in a situation to where we don't know where any of these guys are at as far as postseason and how they handled it, because we pitched a guy like Lance Lynn who might or might not be there next year, and guys like that moving forward. So, hey, that's just the prospect hugger in me. Take that for what it's worth at face value. I'm attached to these guys. But also it comes from a perspective that I think these guys are that good. I have that much faith in them. And for every time that Bobby Miller has gone out and not pitched great, you could also back that up with the Clayton Kershaw did the same thing as well. James Outman hadn't played very good offense to this point. He drew the one walk, but he hasn't come through in the big situations yet. But neither is anybody else. So I mean, it just so the guy that gets squeezed isn't the veteran, it's the rookie. Which to me, that's the exact opposite way that I would go with it. I would make sure, no matter what, even if I didn't win, I at least hedge my bets by giving these guys the experience so we're not in the same situation next year. That's just how I would look at it. But again, I'm a prospect hugger.
Yeah. No, and the Dodgers are going to do what they think is going to be best for them. Right now, I think all of their focus is on winning this year. And so they're going to do whatever they think is best for that. Obviously, it means kind of rolling with some of the veteran presence that they has.
Yeah,
so
Kike and Taylor have been clutch. Yeah, Kike got a big hit the other night. Taylor has been clutch this year at times, but as of late, I guess he drew the walk the other night. But, you could make that argument. And Kike is in the lineup. I definitely think Kike needed to be in lineup somewhere.
Yeah, no, and obviously both of those guys have a ton of experience with the Dodgers in the postseason. They've relied on them in the past. They're going to rely on them now, and I have had opportunities. They have stepped up a little bit in this series. Hopefully they're able to do that a little bit more. Hopefully they have a little bit of magic left in them. Yeah,
Mike says, I don't know. Arizona seems to be doing just fine with rookies with very little experience. It's different in an organization like Arizona that they send up rookies and they say, hey, this is your job. This is going to be your job for the next 5 years. Relax and go out there and do it. It's just different breaking in through an organization like that than it is like the Dodgers, that at every single turn is looking to replace a rookie with a veteran. It's a miracle that the rookies got as much play time that they did this year, and it was only because think of all the injuries you had. Tony Gonsolin went down, Noah Syndergaard went down, Clayton Kershaw went down for large parts of the year. Walker Buehler went down. Julio Urias ends up not being on the team, and then Joe Kelly ends up being hurt as far as, not being in the bullpen. So it's taken literally injuries to 4 to 5 starters to get Bobby Miller, Ryan Pepio up to the major leagues, Emmett Sheehan, situations like that. And a guy like James Outman was hitting like 400 in spring training. And you still had guys like John Heyman and guys like that are very connected to the organization that were still predicting Outman wouldn't even break with the club. So, when you're a rookie with the Dodgers, okay, the second you stop producing, you get replaced with a veteran. That's just how it goes in this organization. So it's almost impossible to stay comfortable like, some of the rookies and other organizations get to do, the opportunities they get. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, there is such a high level of excellence required and expected by the Dodgers organization at the Major League Club. It is expected that you're of super high character. It is expected that you are super highly productive in what you're able to do. With a lot of these rookies, it takes a little bit of time, or at least it can take some time to get acclimated to the major league level. With the Dodgers, the bar of excellence is set immediately very high, whereas in other organizations, perhaps they don't have that level of expectations. That could be due to payroll limitations, that can be due to different philosophical reasons. I think with the Dodgers, they They have such high expectations for that. And they believe that they can take a lot of different veterans from outside and turn them into something that they used to be, or make something click. So with a lot of these rookies, I think it's harder to reach that bar immediately, not because they aren't talented to, but because the Dodgers have a ton of talent. They have a ton of resources to where they can fill a lot of their needs with some known quantity. And so I think a lot of these guys haven't had a ton of experience. Also, that bar of excellence, they feel like that can be met a little bit easier with some of the veterans. They have some financial resources to be able to accommodate that. So I think that it just happens to do with just the level of excellence. That means also at the minor league level that a lot of these guys are getting some of the best training. They're getting some of the best coaches around to be able to elevate their skill. It's just really hard in this organization to be able to break through with how much talent and with how much resources the Dodgers have to spend on free agency to get a lot of those bigger names to continue with the sustained success that they've had.
Yeah, Jason Heyward has 134 major league at-bats in the postseason. He has an average of 149. He's a 149 hitter in the postseason, and that goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 postseasons. That's 134 at-bats. Jason Heyward is hitting 149, an OPS of 447 in the playoffs. David Peralta, okay, his postseason cumulative. Now, hey, I hope these guys go off. Obviously, I hope they both go 4 for 4 tonight and they beat the odds. But if they do that, it's going to be beating the odds. Okay, so David Peralta, lifetime 217 average in the postseason, OPS 511. So those guys get the nod over at James Outman versus like maybe putting Kikehernandez at second base, Mookie Betts in right field, James Outman in center. That kind of goes to my point that those guys haven't produced in the postseason in their careers, but just because they're older, they get put in the lineup for that situation. But I will get off that soapbox. We will move on. Okay, tell us what we know about Brandon Pfaadt for Arizona.
Yeah, let me look this up because he's a newer pitcher in the league.
Just pitched twice against the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so with him, you're having a little bit of different pitch mix. He's got fastball and a sweeper. That's what a lot of these guys in the Arizona bullpen have. They have that fastball, and then they've got that horizontal slider called the sweeper now. Got the changeup and some of the other pitch mixes that he's going to be able to throw. With him, I don't know a ton about him. He doesn't look like he draws a ton of walks. Has some pretty good extension on him. He's going to be a rookie debuting in the postseason with an opportunity to eliminate the Dodgers. So you don't know if those nerves are going to be there because it's his first postseason experience, or if he has a 2-0 series lead, if that's going to relax him a little bit. I think it's going to be really important for the Dodgers to be able to get on him early. I think we've seen what scoring runs early in these games has done. They're going to have to get to Brandon Pfaadt early tonight.
Yeah, FIP in the postseason for him, this is the number that sticks out for me. You know, hey, your typical 94-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball, left-turning sweeper, right-turning changeup, all of that. You know, hey, nothing sticks out as far as, you know, his end-zone stuff. It's just a typical major league pitcher that you're facing tonight. I think the thing that sticks out to me in the postseason, his fielding independent pitching numbers, 626 in the postseason, 518 in the regular season. So that tells me that he gets pretty hard. Batting average and balls in play postseason, 315. In the regular season, 306. This is a guy that throws pitches that are very, very hittable. And, hey, the Dodgers, I think, are going to make a lot of hard contact tonight. I think they're probably going to try to lay off of that. Definitely laid off the changeup. That sweeper's in the zone right about half the time. You know, so, I mean, I think you can probably spit on that pretty good. I think you definitely spit on the changeup. I think you only hit the sweepers, you know, that are smaller, and you ambush those versus trying to react to those. But I think it's going to be another fastball heavy type game plan for the Dodgers. And it's a situation to where if they swing at the right pitches, I think Brandon Pfaadt has shown that he's very hittable.
Yeah, and he still has a ton of talent. We still have to respect what he's able to do, somebody who is fairly highly thought of. But this season, I think has been it's been a lot of learning curves for him. With him, some things that are could be encouraging if these trends continue for the Dodgers is with him, he does give up some hard contact. He gives up some home runs, and he doesn't give up a ton of ground balls. He's about a 33% ground ball, 33% fly ball, and then a lot of line drives. So if the Dodgers are able to hit some line drives, get the ball in the air, which we know that they want to do because they want to slug. These Dodgers hitters want to hit for power. This is a guy that presents that opportunity to the Dodgers just with the way a lot of his batted ball data has gone this way.
Yep. Okay. So we're kind of jumping early to this, but why not? We can chew on it, and we'd love to hear from the crowd as far as what they think about this. You know, beyond the obvious, we stated it last time that, hey, we thought the Dodgers needed to get off to a fast start to get the bad taste out of their mouth, to get the good juju working. That actually went the exact opposite of what we were hoping. So, you know, other than from maybe just a momentum perspective, what do you think are the keys tonight for the Dodgers?
Yeah,
love to hear from the fans on that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's going to be – I'd love to hear kind of what the fans think as far as that. No, I think it starts right there. I think the past two games have gone poorly because you've dug yourself into a hole and you haven't been able to get out of that hole. I think getting a little bit of a hole for Arizona early, getting some scoring runs early to get a little bit of that bad taste, not just for momentum, but to put a little bit of that pressure back on Arizona. That's been a key during these first couple of games we talked about. I don't remember going into game one. I talked about game one's an important one to take, and that obviously didn't happen. We talked about last game, scoring runs early and trying to unleash Bobby Miller. That didn't work. This game, you have a chance to flip the switch because you are on the road and you get to bat first. This is going to be a good opportunity for you, especially because you have some heavy hitters. I know in the chat, JD Martinez hits well in Arizona. He knows that ballpark a little bit too from his couple months when he was with the Diamondbacks. You have stars at the top of your lineup. You have a pitcher that pitches a little bit more to line drives and fly balls and has given up some hard contact. I think scoring early is going to be key because I think that's also going to relieve a little bit of pressure off of Lance Lynn as he goes to navigate against this lineup.
The Dodgers Dawgs have arrived, Austin. It's going to be a good night. We've got little Vivian over here. We've got the Barney boy. We got him over here, the Dodgers Dawgs. They are watching Daddy do his live pregame show for the Dodgers, and they are tuned in. So the Dodgers Dawgs have arrived. Let's go.
You should tell them to join in on the chat. Let us know what the keys to the game are.
Come on up. Come on. No, she doesn't want to. Barn will do it. Barn's my one. Oh, here comes Vivi right here. See her? Okay. You got her?
Yeah,
got them
go.
both right here. You got them? Okay.
There we go.
There's Vivi right there. There's our good luck charm. Give Daddy a kiss right there. Okay. Say, go Dodgers, right? Go Dodgers. I'm your Dodgers dog, right, Daddy? Okay. Yeah, that's good right there. Okay, so our Dodgers Dogs have shown up. They are ready to go. They are ready. I think they're actually ready for me to get off, and take them for a walk. But they are ready for some Dodgers baseball, and so are we. Okay, so good evening, Everett. Thank you for joining. Hey, we got a little chance. Yes, definitely we do. The Dodgers have won 3 games in a row. I think I read, they've done it I want to say 15 times this year. They've won 3 games in a row, something like that. And they, so I mean, this is not something that's out of the question for the Dodgers. I actually read that stat the other day. Don't quote me on that, but it's quite a few times. Let's just put it to you that way.
Yeah.
Quite a few times the Dodgers have won 3 games in a row. Agree with you, Michael. The Dodgers cannot strike out tonight. The fielding independent pitching. Hey, that's one thing that goes underrated about the Diamondbacks. They play great defense. That shortstop they have is a fantastic player. So the Dodgers need to keep the ball in play all night long. If they are swinging and hitting the ball the way that I think that they're going to have some pitches to hit, I think things are going to be good.
Yeah, no, it comes down to, especially with Brandon Pfaadt, staying off of that sweeper, especially that sweeper that's breaking away from right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
You can lay off of that and force him to be a little bit more in the zone where you can do some damage with that. I think that's going to be really important. And that provides you with more opportunities to succeed. If you're striking out a whole lot, especially with runners in scoring position, that's going to be of really real trouble, because then that's going to remind you of what has happened the past couple of games when you've had opportunities in some moments to get back in the game. Being able to put the ball in play in those big situations is important.
Having said that, there were a couple times where I wish the Dodgers would have struck out. And this actually is an organizational philosophy that, hey, if you strike out, it's only one out. If you put the ball in play with runners on base, there is the opportunity to make more than one out, which we've seen on a couple of big occasions for the Dodgers where they hit a ground ball and roll into a double play. So in a lot of scenarios, the Dodgers will tell you they would rather you swing and miss than hit a ground ball. So when we say contact, we're not talking necessarily weak ground balls. We mean line drives. Obviously, hey, even in this day and age, the conversation's always between fly balls, ground balls, and the modern age people would tell you to hit a fly ball instead of a ground ball. And I assure you, none of those guys have coached a 120-pound second baseman in Oklahoma when the wind's blowing in from the north, about 30 miles an hour. And if they're hitting fly balls all day long, they're 0 for 4. I mean, because they're not going to get it past the infield. Those kind of people have never tried to coach those kind of guys before, I assure you that. But it's not ground balls, fly balls. It's line drives. So obviously a line drive is the best thing you can hit. But, yeah, no, that's an organizational philosophy that I wish the Dodgers would, if there is, I was talking about this in class today. With every tragedy, of course, losing a game's never a tragedy, but it is adversity. With all adversity, let's put it that way. With all adversity, there's always opportunity. So if the Dodgers do go and lose tonight, there's an opportunity to have to self-evaluate and go, hey, why is our offense disappearing in the postseason? Why are things not working out for us the way that we would like for it to? And I think one of the very first things that the Dodgers would have to evaluate is the offensive philosophy, the way that they rely on too much slugging. We talk about it all the time. They need 4 or 5 guys in the lineup that are just line drive hitting suckers, that are putting pressure on the defense every time they go up. Their goal is to never strike out and just to be a pain in the ass to the other team and the other team's pitcher. I think the Dodgers, that's the first thing they would need to evaluate, to incorporate more of those type of guys into their lineup. I think that's the opportunity they would have with this type of adversity.
Yeah, and obviously, I think if you look at a lot of the numbers as far as ground balls, fly balls versus line drives have an insane batting average if you look at the displacement with that. So you kind of want to have that line drive to maybe slightly above the fly ball, just so you can get some power with that. Yeah. I think you're right with that. If it does happen that the Dodgers offense just disappears again tonight, I think there's going to be that self-reflection, because there needs to be at least a little bit more of a base of an offense. And I think that's what you're referring to with a lot of guys that don't strike out, maybe that are able to draw some walks and able to put the ball in play with a lot of line drives. I think that provides a really good base of an offense that's a little bit more predictable. With a lot of these home runs, I think they're a little bit unpredictable, where if they show up, the Dodgers offense can be really good. And over the course of a large sample size, a full season, that has proven to win a lot of games. But now what the Dodgers would have to evaluate is what is best for a shorter game series. How do we win a lot of these shorter game series, and why aren't we winning under this approach? So adding a couple guys like that, you look at some guys in the minor leagues I would look at some of the guys under the guise of a player like Austin Gauthier, who walks more than he strikes out and hits a lot of line drives and is able to set up the offense. Perfect
example. Yes.
And if you look at a lot of his numbers, this is something that drove me a little bit crazy, just because he's so underrated. Yes. Didn't get a single award during the minor league.
He's not underrated, because I think I reported on him every day.
I know. And you look at a lot of his numbers. He had an incredible season, so incredibly underrated from the national audience. Most people don't even know that guy's existed, and he had such a good season. this is a little bit of a side tangent, to not get some sort of award from either the Texas League, Midwest League, or some sort of publication. But that type of mold of hitter would be something that would be just add another level to where even if some of the guys are struggling a little bit, you can at least rely on him to be able to put the ball in play or work a good count and not strike out in those situations.
So let's say that, okay, unfortunately the Dodgers don't win tonight or they don't win tomorrow. It's going to be very disappointing and hard for the Dodgers to accept. Okay, Dave, and here's the hardest part of it is if you look at Dave Roberts all year, he's pulled every string properly to get this team to 100 wins. He did everything right last game. So to this point, there's nothing Dave Roberts has done other than be great this year as a manager. So it's really hard to put the blame on him. Now, you might be able to say he doesn't have his team playing loose enough. I don't think that's him. I think that's professionals knowing that, hey, this is a no-win situation for them. Either they win and everybody's like, yeah, they're supposed to win, or they lose and it's monumentally just, seen as just a monumentally bad thing. So let's say that happens, you self-reflect. I think what the Dodgers would need to do in the postseason is that, let's say, you move on from David Peralta. Mookie Betts goes back out to right field. Who knows with Gavin Lux? So you have left field, second base, shortstop available. Hopefully Lux can fill the shortstop spot. But with those three positions, I want the Dodgers to go out and get a 320 hitter, somebody who is a line drive type hitter that can steal bases and is that type of offensive player. I don't want him to go out and get a guy that hits 25 home runs and strikes out 100 times a year and as another guy that adds to the power in the lineup. I want him to go get three guys that rely on contact and average at those positions.
Yeah, and I think with that, I would also emphasize the ability to draw walks too.
Yes.
I think that's an underrated skill because with that, with a lot of these guys, and you saw this with a guy like Luis Arias through the season. At the beginning of the season, we were talking about him being a potentially 400 hitter, and that was because he had batting average and balls in play close to 500.
Yeah.
But as that corrects itself, some of those batted balls don't necessarily go, they get caught a lot of times, and so some of the batting average can have some variability in as far as depending on how the batted ball goes. And so I think adding that level of walks to that just adds a little bit more of a base, just in case some of the batted balls don't land all the time. But I think you're exactly right with that. Adding that would be something that would be extremely valuable. This free agent class, and we'll have time to go into this, hopefully after the Dodgers win this series, come back from down 2-0 and go on to win a couple more series after that. We'll have plenty of time to talk about this. The free agent class coming up, especially offensively, is not looking great. So it likely would have to do with, you'll have to be creative with how you do this.
Michael's on Young Hoo Lee. He says he's basically the Korean Ichiro. The Dodgers need to get him. If Lynn allows, I've got something. I've got like a heart or something my way here. Can you read that whole thing? If Lynn allows a homer, yes. If Lynn allows a home run, pull him. Yep. I think he's definitely going to be on a short leash. That would be the plan for Ryan Pepiot to get in, is the short leash portion of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right with that. I think ideally, if Lance Lynn is able to go, let's say 4 innings, let's say that Lance Lynn is able to go 4 innings, I think that's when you could hand it over to the bullpen, and then you could use a guy like Ryan Pepiot tomorrow. Yeah, I think you could be able to use a guy like Ryan Pepiot, not necessarily have him for that long relief tonight. I think you could potentially save that for tomorrow if you trust Ryan Pepiot more than a guy like an Emmett Sheehan, just in case something goes wrong with Kershaw, or if you want to piggyback that.
Do you trust a rookie? I mean, you're obviously struggling to trust rookies to begin with. This lineup tonight would show you that. So then do you trust them in a game 4? You've waited all the way till the 4th game, then you just throw them out there then? I mean, at least like with Bobby Miller, okay, you go out and he doesn't pitch very well. Yeah. That's only the 2nd game of the series, right? I mean, and that's not good because now you have to win 3 in a row. But it wasn't, the game that sent you home. If you wait till the 4th game of the series to throw a rookie out there, take that pressure of just the normal postseason deal and just put it on steroids. my opinion.
Yeah, I think either one of these games, either tonight or tomorrow, assuming that there is a game tomorrow, they're going to have to rely heavily on their bullpen. That's likely what going to be. In which case, if that happens, you're relying heavily on your bullpen in a really short span. And I don't think you can rely heavily on that bullpen 3 out of 4 days.
Yeah.
So I think at some point, you're going to have to utilize a guy like a Ryan Pepio or an Emmett Sheehan at some point. So I think that just comes out of necessity, unless we get some length and we get some effective starts from Lance Lynn, Clayton Kershaw. Hopefully that is the case. In which case I would see that some of the rookies, Emmett Sheehan, Ryan Pepio, might not get as limited opportunities. But I think with the way that the bullpen had to pitch the other night, I think that's just a necessity of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Mike says, I don't know why, but I think Lynn is going to surprise all of us and pitch a great game. Hey, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Lance Lynn being in this area, Matt Holliday, with one of my friends from Stillwater, he was with St. Louis forever. Rumors are he was going to be the manager there. I don't know anything about that. I haven't heard anything about that in about the last month or so. But so I'm very familiar with Lance Lynn. Hey, it would not surprise me. I'm not saying the Dodgers are making the wrong move at all. Lance Lynn has been a dog. He has that dog mentality. He has good stuff. And to be honest with you, I understand what you're saying, Mike, but if he goes out there and pitches really, really well, and which we all hope definitely happens, wouldn't surprise me a bit. And then, hey, let's hope that he goes out there and throws 5 or 6 good innings, and he kind of lets you pace your bullpen to where your bullpen is fully available tomorrow. That would be best case scenario. Hey, and let me say this too. If he goes 6 and then they go to their 18 bullpen, and then Kershaw throws tomorrow night and he goes 6, and then they're able to go to their 18 bullpen again on back-to-back nights, and Ryan Pepio never pitches and the Dodgers win both games, trust me, I am as happy as I possibly could be, and so would Ryan Pepio be as well. So, that definitely, I think Lance Lynn has certainly the potential to go out there and throw a great game tonight.
There is plenty of opportunities for Ryan Pepio to pitch in the next series in either Philadelphia or Atlanta. I think the happiest he
7
would be
games,
yes, if they win this series. And I think what the point I think that they're trying to make is how ironic would it be in postseason baseball where it's completely unpredictable going into the series. I think we would have said we were most concerned about Lance Lynn pitching, and if Lance Lynn goes out and dominates tonight, it's completely reversed to what we thought would have happened. And bar's not super high for him to jump over in order to be better than Kershaw and Bobby Miller were during the first 2 games. So shows what October baseball can bring.
Man, that's a lot. That's a lot on Lance Lynn's shoulders to any pitcher that whoever's pitching for the Dodgers tonight, that's a lot on their shoulders. And hey, he's a guy that can handle that. So that's going to be super fun to watch. Hey, we're coming up on 7:40. The game starts here in 25 minutes. We're going to take you up until about 10 minutes till. So we got about 10 minutes to go. Call all your friends and tell them to hop on to the live chat here, and let's get a good conversation. Let's continue our good conversation about Dodgers baseball and the game tonight. Mike says Philly is beating the Braves up right now. Yeah, they are.
Oh yeah, the game is final right now. Phillies won 10-2, so they're up 2 games to 1 over Atlanta. So they are a very dangerous postseason team. They've got a lot of really good people, got a lot of really good players on that team that can help bring leadership for them to win. They can also slug in the postseason. Bryce Harper tonight was just unreal, and he didn't need some additional motivation, but he got that with Orlando Arcia. Hit 2 home runs tonight and kind of drove them to the win.
You a Harper fan?
I mean, you got to respect what he's been able to do. Yeah, I think with the amount of talent that he has, and with him, he's ultra competitive, and so he's going to try to help his team win. And so you got to respect what he's able to do.
Yeah, when he was in high school, he actually he toured around playing with different clubs, and he came to Oklahoma for like a month and a half, and I remember it being a huge deal. He played with a suburb area high school in summer and called Westmore, and it was a big deal. I just remember like the Daily Oklahoman covered it, and there was press everywhere, and I remember, thinking, gosh, this guy must be a really big deal. Let's go watch him play. So went and watched him play while he was playing Legion ball with Westmore, and yeah, his BP that he took, they have a soccer field behind right field at Westmore High School where he was taking BP. Yeah. And so like the soccer team was practicing, and I think the band was out there too. Maybe it was the soccer team. It was somebody maybe the football team. I don't know. But when he was taking BP left-handed, that soccer field, practice football field, is behind the right field fence. And literally everybody that was on that field had to stop doing what they were doing because he was hitting balls on that field and pelting people with them the whole time he was taking BP. And we were all just sitting there like going, holy Jesus, this guy's like Superman. It was pretty impressive to watch.
Yeah, no, he's incredibly talented, and hopefully when the Dodgers are able to advance, if they go up against the Phillies, a lot of big ifs right there, he's going to be a real issue to deal with.
Yeah, no doubt. And, okay, so who comes in first relief tonight, you think?
Ooh, that...
Good question. Brusdar again, is he available like that, you think?
I would say that just about everybody is available because of the nature of today's game. I think he did a really good job setting the pace last time. I talked a lot about the energy that he was able to bring. And, I mean, you talk about underrated. Brusdar Garibald is just extremely consistent, and you look at a lot of the overall big picture of what he's able to do. So no, I think he would be somebody that you could look into, obviously dependent on the matchup that you're looking at, depending on what you think, but he would be a really good one to set that pace, especially if the Dodgers are able to come in with the lead and then he's got some of that energy to bring. I think that would be a really good idea to kind of run that back.
Gratterall, Kelly, Brazier, Phillips, there's 4 innings. So, if you can get 5 out of Lance Lynn, that bridges straight to them. If you get 4 out of Lance Lynn, then you might need 1 out of Ryan Pepio.
You can
ask Ryan Pepio to come in and throw 1 inning?
I don't know if I would do that. I might save him for more of a piggyback role if needed. You could go with a guy like a Shelby Miller, who was
there you go.
effective on.
But if you have a 1-run lead in the 6th, do you go to him?
I think he's been pitching really well recently, and I think you can roll the dice with him on that.
Whew. Or do you do like they did last time? It probably wouldn't be Gratterall again, but do you throw Ryan Brazier or Joe Kelly multiple innings? And Joe Kelly wasn't happy when he got pulled last time. Joe Kelly would have no problems going 2 innings. So would you rather go with a Shelby Miller for 1 inning and throw, let's say that Lance Lynn goes 4 innings, okay? And you need to bridge 5 innings. So do you go with Shelby Miller, Brusdar Gratterall, Joe Kelly, Ryan Brazier, Evan Phillips, 5 different guys? Or do you just go straight to Brusdar Gratterall, Ryan Brazier, Joe Kelly, Evan Phillips, and then probably throw Joe Kelly 2 innings?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I know which way I go, but who knows?
Yeah, I that's really tough because you also need to think. You can't be thinking about tomorrow, but that also has to be in the back of your head too. But you got to use the guys that you think are going to be the most effective tonight, and because the biggest thing is to win today. So I don't know which one of those paths that I would use. I'm interested to hear what you say.
I am always on the side, Austin. If you've ever been in a situation to where you can't give up any runs and everything's on the line, every pitch, every inning, every time you bring in a new pitcher, even if they're really good, you're like, oh my God, what are we going to get here? It only takes one guy to have a bad night in a close game to mess the whole game up. So the more guys that you bring in, the higher the odds there are that one of the guys that you bring in isn't going to have their stuff that night, right? So when you're seeing a guy with your own eyes that's throwing well in the situation that you're dealing with at that moment, it is very, very difficult to take that guy out because you don't know what even if like I said, even if the next guy's really good and been really reliable, you have no idea what you're going to get. So I would always prefer with a fewer amount of pitchers to bring in and ride with the guys that are pitching well longer.
Yeah, no, there certainly has to be a sense or a feel of how these guys are pitching. If somebody's pitching really well, really dominantly, I think you have to utilize that. And especially if that can save some guys from using a lot of guys, I think that would be something. I think that'd be a really good game plan to use. I think it's going to really tonight just come down to feel. It's going to depend on how the first couple innings go with Lance Lynn, or however long he's going to be able to pitch. That's going to play a huge factor in what their plan is. So it's going to be up to Dave Roberts to be able to manage this well. I think obviously he's been put in a hole, and hasn't been a ton that he's been able to do with the rough starts that they've had. But I mean, we talked about game 2, him pulling a lot of the correct strings, just the offense wasn't able to perform. Hopefully he's able to pull a lot of those correct strings. He seems to have a good feel for what the bullpen is, at least at this point right now. Let's hope that continues.
Yeah, and Mike says that I thought I read where Lance Lynn said that him and Pepio were pitching tonight. Yeah, I'm sure that's that could be the plan if, like Lance Lynn 2 innings, Ryan Pepio 2 innings, or 1-3 and 1-2. That could also be a plan too. But my point to that is, if Lance Lynn is cruising and he's throwing really, really well, and he's through 3 innings, and say even if he's only given up 1 run to that point, that would be a tough decision to take him out and put a rookie in.
Yeah,
that would take some brass.
Yeah. No, that would be that's kind of the mentality of trusting your game plan versus seeing what you're seeing on the field. How much do you rely on some of the past experience in this game when you're seeing something that might differ from that? Those are some of the tough managerial decisions and that have been made. And I know there's been a lot of examples where guys have been pulled early based off of what the spreadsheets type say, and those situations don't work out. There's also been situations where they've let people in, and because
Boston Red Sox got their manager fired for that with Pedro Martinez.
No, so it's a really tough path to navigate. So I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if they used Ryan Pepio. I think it just depends on what they think is going to be best to win this game, because this game means everything for the Dodgers right now. So I think we've seen a tendency for them to rely on a lot of guys in their bullpen before, which is kind of why we're kind of leaning that way. But if the game plan is to use Ryan Pepio in this game, this kind of lines up with how their rotation is able to do, and that would lessen the burden on some of the bullpen tonight.
Yeah, let's look at it this way. Let's just go score 17 runs and not give a rat's ass who's pitching for the Dodgers, right? Hey, let's score 17 runs and let's finish the game with Miguel Rojas on the bump. How does that sound?
I don't know why you're stopping at 17. I would go to at least 18.
Because I want to save some for tomorrow.
Yeah. You want to save that 18th run for tomorrow?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Mike says, "Hey, leave him in and let him shove." That's kind of my point. If in some ways I'm kind of hoping we don't see Pepio, because it means that Lance Lynn struggled early. Because I think if Lance Lynn is shoving through 2 or 3 innings, you're not taking him out. So
but then what's the conversation going to be? Let's say that Lance Lynn goes 4 innings and he goes back out for the 5th inning, walks 2 guys, and then gives up a home run, or walks a guy then gives up.
I think 4th inning they're safe, because I think that bridges you through all your A-team relievers. Because I think at that point you can throw Joe Kelly 2 innings, you can throw Ryan Brazier 2 innings, you can throw Ryan Brazier 4 outs, Joe Kelly 5 outs. Or any kind of combination to get an extra inning out of those guys. I think 4 innings bridges you to your A-team relievers.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and they're gonna need a lot of those guys to step up. It's an elimination game, as the pregame festivities have begun, and they're announcing the players right now. At least that's what I have on the screen. It's getting close, and tonight could be a disappointing night, but it also could be a launching pad towards a comeback. We've seen this Dodger team win a lot of games. This series is not over yet, and so tonight they have an opportunity to make a statement and start a comeback in this series.
Any final thoughts?
I think that kind of encapsulates a lot of that. They have an opportunity tonight. We'll see how this goes. I think a lot of Dodgers fans are pessimistic because of what they've seen. They've had a day off. They're in a new location.
They're in pout mode.
Yes,
definitely.
But we'll obviously, we like to say a little bit optimistic on this show. We like to talk up a lot of these players.
I've never been in a position to where negativity's ever done anything to help me, ever.
Exactly. So we are cautiously optimistic about how tonight is going to go. I mean, it's still playoff baseball, and the reality is a lot of other teams around the league don't get to see this as often. And so being able to have this where this is a given every single year, even though a lot of years it's been painful for the Dodgers, I think there can still be an appreciation that this is the playoffs. You still get to watch your team in the playoffs. Now tonight, let's go win Game 3 in Arizona and keep our hopes alive.
So let me ask you this. If you knew for a fact that Dave Roberts, the manager, Andrew Friedman, the GM, all the bench coaches, Dino at third, and all the players, if they were approaching this game like, oh, it's 2-0, we're done, we're screwed, we've lost the first 2 games, this series is over, how productive do you think that would be for a mindset for them?
Oh, they would be. They might as well not show up. They might as well.
So the way I see it is, I know they're not approaching it like that. Why would I approach it like that as a fan?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Exactly.
I mean, I just don't see the point in automatically going to, we're done, it's over, this series is over, we can't win. I just don't. To me, I mean, that's just me, and everybody's different. I'm not saying, hey, don't be like that, whatever. From my perspective, I just don't see the point in thinking like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. And I think there's also some sort of value in having a lot of that positivity, a lot of that hope. We're not trying to be overly or unrealistically positive. I think a lot of this comes from, we know how talented these guys are, and we also enjoy the game of baseball. We're going to love watching this team for as long as they're able to play. So,
yeah, and it's going to be a fun game tonight. So, can't wait for it. So, hey, we had a great crowd. Don't forget, we also will have a show. You're going to be available in the morning, Austin?
I don't know if I'll be available in the morning. I got work tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. But there should be some sort of analysis from this game at some point.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, I may be shooting you text messages to see what we got for when do you think you'll know? Do you know?
Yeah. So tomorrow I got to actually go into work, and then I got to drive up to, so that means that I got to wake up super early for that. So, and then I got to drive to the other side of the state. I'm actually celebrating Christmas this weekend.
What?
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. It's the middle of October, and legit, I'm celebrating Christmas this weekend. I have my grandfather who...
You Michigan people are weird. You know that?
Well, we also have a lot of people that go out of state. So my grandfather, at the end of this month, will be going to Florida, and so he's not coming back for... He's not coming back for Christmas, so, or at least we don't know if he's coming back for Christmas. So we're celebrating Christmas October 14th. That will be Christmas Day, and hopefully that will be Christmas Day for the Dodgers when they advance to the National League Championship Series.
Okay, awesome, man. I'm sure after all this conversation about Christmas in October and staying positive and all this kind of stuff, I'm sure our fans are screaming at us to get off so we can get to that Dodgers game. So, hey, thank you for everybody tuning in. Thank you, Austin, for joining us this evening. It's been a super amount of fun. So, as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and say, go Dodgers, beat the Diamondbacks. Hey, this team can win 3 games in a row.